I kind of like that name. Volume. Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Marvel Snap content. Now, today is going to be about Gambit, Horsemen of Death, and a tech deck that I'd like to talk about that I've been kind of theory crafting until I can put it together, and so I can get your guys' opinion on it, because I like doing things a bit differently here. Gambit, turns out he's really good. Well, we already knew that. When it comes to his consistency, he's definitely got his ups and his downs. He is good in a meta where you're spamming small things. He's bad in a meta where you're playing high cost things. So he's going to be pretty inconsistent when it comes to how much you're playing him in the meta. He's going to have certain weeks where he's just like crazy and people are going to adjust and he's going to fall off a bit and they're going to readjust. And then he's going to come back and pop off again. It's going to be one of those, inconsistent decks that you're going to be using probably often with him in it. Unless you can hybrid it, or get a hybrid deck that can cover, big things and small things, which is doable. Or if you can just go big yourself and cover small things as well. So I went ahead and started theory crafting some decks. I had a little bit of hope from Harry Perry. Cool guy, you should go check him out. And we've come up with a few ideas kind of to get a Gambit of Horsemen deck out there that can kind of do a little bit of everything. Now, that being said, since it's focusing on, going big and trying to kill little things while doing creating, it might be a little weird, but it could be really sneaky too. So let's talk about it. There's going to be a couple variations of this depending on what you have. You're going to have multiple options of avenues you can pick. And I'll talk about which one I think I'm going to go with. Now, I'm still missing some key pieces, but we'll talk about in a second. We'll talk about it soon. So the idea is you want your Gambit to be one of your win conditions and have it be not as obvious that you're playing Gambit. Now, you can still play him turn 3 if you choose to. If there's nothing else to play, it's still a good play. But if you can preserve it for your last turn, it may be better, depending on what deck you play. So this is the first variation, where we're using Kitty Pryde, Nico, Agony Surge, Penny Parker, Maverick, Gambit, Hope Summers, Prowler, Spider, or I guess Scarlet Spider, Symbiote Spider, and Shallow the Undying. The whole point of this deck is to obviously win through the Scarlet Spider tech with Symbiote Spider-Man. Now, that being said, you can still proc Gambit in this deck. You have Nico that can copy cards and create them to your hand. You have the tools from Prowler. You have Penny Parker's creative armor thing that you can put on someone. So that right there is enough to proc his passive. As long as you draw either Prowler and Penny, or Penny and Nico, or Nico and Prowler, you should hypothetically be good to go to proc Gambit's passive to have him destroy things. Will it always happen? It depends. Since we have no draw power in this deck, well, I guess technically we do. We have draw with Nico, and if you can pop her ability to draw, I would probably pop Penny Parker. She's the easiest one to just get rid of out of this deck. Just out of thinking about it, you play the Nico. You destroy the Penny, but she still gives you the armor, right? So I think that's the best way of doing it. If you're going to use the destroy version over to draw 2 cards to get through your deck, I think that's the way to go. Surge is there to make everything flow nicely since our deck is relatively low cost. We have Hope Summers. This is replaceable with Luna, because Luna does do creating. You can use Superior Spider-Man if you just want consistency, since we are buffing our deck. That would be pretty smart too. I think Superior Spider-Man would be a nice flow. The reason I went with Hope Summers here is because we do use tools. We are using things that can be replaced on that location. You could put Wing Beat in this deck if you wanted to, but there will be turns in this deck where you can get multiple energy just from Hope, which would be probably better off than just something 1 energy a turn. That being said, the downside of Hope is also, as soon as you run out of location room, she's kind of done fueling the fire. Like, you're not getting much energy for her, so you are going to rely on Surge. But the upside is you're going to have turns where you can probably get 2 to 3 energy just off Hope Summers alone, and those turns are going to be really important key turns. So you could just go Superior Spider-Man and run off Surge. You do have Penny Parker's gimmick too, where whenever you attach her armor to something, it gives you 1 energy. So you have enough avenues of energy. It's just depending. It's depending on what you have access to your account. I have Hope Summers and Luna. If I had Superior Spider-Man, I would probably consider running him since he's an easy activation in this deck, and it would just be consistent energy. But Hope Summers does give you that slight edge of flexibility to where you can get an extra few energy per turn if you choose to, which could be really nice. Though the downside is, of course, you have to play Kitty. The win condition of this deck outside of Gambit, because Gambit obviously will destroy a few things and help, clear the board, is going big but also kind of wide with Scarlet Spider by giving him the buffs from, Penny Parker's armor, giving him Agony, giving him Symbiote Spider-Man, popping him over. Worst case scenario, you could also use Shallow before activating him if the turn calls for it. Instead of using Symbiote Spider-Man, you could just use Shallow if Shallow at the moment, or in that moment, is just giving more power. It's going to probably be pretty flexible between Symbiote Spider-Man and Shallow as the thing you use on your Scarlet Spider, depending upon the situation and turn. Also, the RNG of like fields, or I should say locations, and like whatever happens, right? It's good to always have a backup plan just in case something gets discarded in an accident you didn't want to get discarded. So having 2 ways to give Spider-Man maximum power to make sure that he can be big enough to contest locations is a smart thing. So having a Symbiote Spider-Man and a Shallow, just to have 2 avenues, and if you can play both, fantastic. You might be able to, especially with Surge and Hope Summers, or like Surge and Superior Spider-Man, or even Lunastone. You probably have ways to play these guys a bit earlier on really good games where you're drawing correctly and just getting lucky because Surge pops off, right? If you have the ability to play, Symbiote Spider-Man at turn 3, you're going to do it, right? So it all depends on, Surge and Hope Summers kind of syncing together, and the RNG that is, Surge and your draws. The next version of this deck I actually kind of like a lot because it isn't reliant so much on just going bigger. Now, you can still technically go big with Shallow on the Scarlet Spider. That is something you could still do. I think it's still very strong. The difference is your turn, or your final turn in the game, is going to be focused around Chameleon and Gambit. You're going to play Gambit followed by Chameleon on the same location to double make Gambits. I haven't seen this used yet, which is kind of crazy. I've been seeing Frigga, which Frigga is kind of like still very good. It does the same thing, but this way you're more stealthy about like how you're doing it. This one will come out like your opponents won't expect this combination of cards on the last turn. They'll expect, something else, especially if you're just solely focusing on prepping your Scarlet Spider to spread. Now, keep in mind, Scarlet Spider doesn't count for Gambit, so you need to make sure that you have your tools from Prowler. You did your thing with Penny and or Nico, right? You got to make sure that he has his ability ready, otherwise it's kind of a dud turn, which is why the fallback is always just to go bigger and hope that they don't one-shot you with something cringe. So, you know who I'm talking about. You know who. You know the guy likes targeting things above 10 power. So your turn 6 or 7, depending on if you have a turn 7, would be Gambit into Chameleon, which would therefore give you essentially 2 Gambit of Death, or Gambit Horsemen of Death, right? So you'd be able to destroy 8, up to 8 total cost of things. Well, technically it's up to 4 total cost of things, but you double down on it. You double dip it, right? So you can actually clear more off the board. It's the same thing as like Frigga. It's just less predictable because you're running, once again, a less predictable style of deck. They won't expect it, which is a good thing, especially if you keep Gambit into your hand until that last turn with Chameleon. You might get away with some sneaky stuff. Now, here's another version. It's essentially the one that we already talked about. The difference is Superior Spider-Mans on the deck. It's more Spider-Man based theme. As you see, we have Prowler Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider Spider-Man, Symbiote Spider-Man, that is, and Agony. So it's and Penny Parker. So it is pretty Spider-Man heavy themed, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's kind of cool that some of the Spider-Man cards work together. They're just kind of weird because like Spider-Man doesn't work with anything unless his move. So it's a little weird. Now, I do think for consistency, Superior Spider-Man is something that would probably be better on the opening turn of turn 3 over a Hope Summers, because then you'll get the power probably right away if you already have Penny Parker onto something, or if you already have, you know, Agony on Maverick. Well, I guess it depends. It depends on like your opening turn, but ideally, Superior Spider-Man might be able to be just played turn 3 easier if you have powered on your things. Like if you surge early, surge turn 2, draw Spider-Man turn 3, then Superior Spider-Man is just good to go, right? Like he's empowered and you can start going early because of Surge setting him up. That being said, Superior Spider-Man does require something buffed, so you may also want to just hope that you get Kitty right away, because if Kitty's on the field, he'll proc, right? So it would be more consistent, but it doesn't have a better ceiling than Hope Summers. It's just more consistent. I think Hope Summers has still got a better ceiling, and also pairs better with the Shallow tech, because Kitty +1 is just consistent to build up your Shallow. So it's one of those things that you can use Superior Spider-Man, you can use Luna Snow. It just depends on the situation of your hand and what you have access to. They all have their own drawbacks, so there's that too. The last thing I wanted to talk about is there is another option here. If you don't want to go Superior Spider-Man, you could, in theory, go Galacta. This was Harry Perry's idea. And the reason you do this, one, is because it does pair well Kitty Pryde. Two, it would also buff your Scarlet Spider and whatever else you don't play next to it. So in theory, this could be pretty gross for getting a little extra power out of your, you know, arsenal. And more power is never a bad thing. The issue is it is a 4 cost, so you would definitely want to hit it with Surge to see if you can get lucky and play multiple things on that turn. If, you know, whatever energy source you have is also popping up to play, like to help you consist of playing 2 things. Symbiote Spider-Man is also a 4 cost, but he's more so like an end game play, where this is something you would want to play on turn 4 or 3 if possible, right away, right? So if you don't draw her by then, it's going to be a little weird. Where with Symbiote Spider-Man, you're guaranteed to be able to, you know, use him the way he's intended, pop his activation as well. And then with Chameleon, it's kind of just like the same thing. It's guaranteed to be good on that last turn. If everything's set up, you can just play Chameleon with the Gambit and, you know, have them pop off. So it is flexible, but also weird. I wouldn't recommend overstocking your energy. I don't think adding another energy like button would do anything, or like another energy source would do anything. I think it'd be overstacking. So this last slot is pretty flexible to a lot of things. You could do Wingbeat. Wingbeat would be really good in general, just to buff up things like Agony, buff things up like Superior Spider-Man himself. It would also make activating Superior Spider-Man quite easy. On top of that, you know, you could just put it on your Scarlet Spider if it's in the far left corner of your hand. You can put it on Maverick. Like, Wingbeat does work. It just works best on like a unit like Shallow, where you're also reducing their cost. So it would be a solid option if you have it, to make your deck a little cheaper and also a way to cheat a little bit of power. Just, you know, food for thought. Before we wrap up now, I will say there is a bundle supposedly coming out relatively soon that will be dropping Scarlet Spider. It's $50, kind of pricey. I think that's because Dr. Doom is in it as well, which is annoying. I myself may consider picking this up if I don't grab Scarlet Spider before then, because I am literally just missing Scarlet Spider for this deck, essentially. I'm also missing Chameleon. I'm hoping to get Chameleon out of the events, or, you know, if the shop ever does just want to roll him in. I can, you know, probably grab him. It's a 1 out of 54 chance. So I think Chameleon is probably going to be relatively good. Now, you don't have to go out and buy him yourself. I'd rather test him myself than be able to give you more information on him and to make sure that he works the way I want him to before, like, telling y'all to get him because I said so. So, yeah, Scarlet Spider for sure is definitely something I've been wanting to play for a minute. I think he's a really cool card. I think the idea of him is super cool. I like activate cards. I think they're relatively fun to use. Objectives are a little bit easier to use just because you activate the objective and you can play them on, like, they're just, you know, pre-settable active cards in most situations. You can just, you know, play them, and if the objective's done, they'll just pop off right away. With actives, you have to play them before you press the button, which is the only downfall of actives. I was also thinking about Joe Costa, but I don't know if I like Joe Costa with this deck, mainly because it's not a bad idea to reactivate an ability. It's just, I don't know how that flow with Scarlet Spider. Like, would it flow directly off of the Scarlet Spider? Like, would it just reactivate Scarlet Spider, or would it activate Joe Costa as a version of Scarlet Spider? I don't really know since I don't have her. It says immediately activate your other cards here without using their... So maybe Joe Costa is also something you can do just to double dip the activation of Scarlet Spider to, you know, manipulate more Scarlet Spiders. It's just an idea. Just a quick idea. If you don't want to go Chameleon Gambit, you could just double down on maybe and use Joe Costa and then reactivate your Scarlet Spider. Just a thought. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Just wanted to talk about a deck theory that I've been kind of crafting together. I'd love your thoughts on it, and if there's anything you'd switch out just to make it flow a bit better, let me know in the comments below. I am open to discussions on this before I dedicate any more resources, because I was like, oh, Penny Parker is the really perfect reason why this could work for me. It's because Penny Parker is like easy to use and also gives that flexibility to move a unit, and also is a created card that is a 3 cost, which is over halfway on, like, to use Gambit, and then I use Prowler all the time, so it kind of just made sense for those two to go in this deck. But yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and yeah, give me some feedback on this deck, and I'll talk to you later. I'll definitely do a video on it whenever I do obtain Scarlet Spider and I, you know, put something together. It's just I'm literally just missing Scarlet Spider to really start testing this stuff. And when it comes to Chameleon and Joe Costa and all these other cards, I will get them eventually. It's just kind of filling in to see what the base deck feels like and if it has enough graded cards to even really consider going this avenue. I feel like it should be relatively usable, especially if you do use Surge and Penny Parker and Prowler. You could put Hawkeye, Kate Bishop in here. She does make creative cards. It's just then your hand is going to be overflowed with tools, and I don't know how that would feel. At least if you have one tool card, it's, you know, decent. You just have to, like, make up the difference, right, and try to find another avenue to make creative cards. So, yep. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.